Hey, Graham, what's happening?
Hey, Steve, how you doing, sir?
Oh, another day at the office.
How was your Christmas?
It was very low key. Obviously, you know the situation. So
Yeah,
it was just my wife, myself, our three dogs, and we stayed here in the house and just kind of chilled.
nice. How's your 2020 been so far? Because you wrapped up season 2 of the Steve Austin show, or Straight Up Steve Austin, rather, earlier on in 2020, right?
Yes, we did, and I was so thankful to get that in the can. And we got pushed. Production got slowed down because of everything that happened. And then finally, they gave us a green light to a window to get it done. We were able to get it done in that window and observe all the precautions and all the protocol. And it was challenging, but I think we made the most of it. We operated safely and came out with a show that I'm very proud of. And I had been sitting on my ass for so long waiting for this thing to happen. I was chomping at the bit, like a lot of people, to get back to work. So it was a breath of fresh air for me.
Well, you've been a busy man, Steve, recently. Between this, you got Straight Up Steve Austin coming back on January 11th. You've been recording the Broken Skull sessions for WWE Network. You got your podcast as well. What have you noticed in doing the last 2 seasons of Straight Up Steve Austin? What have you noticed have been the biggest differences between doing a podcast, sitting down and talking to someone, and then doing a show like Straight Up Steve Austin where you're out, showing Sal from Impractical Jokers, the ring ropes, and stuff like that, kind of going outside and doing activities and whatnot?
Well, I mean, the podcast, I kind of put the brakes on that a few months ago when COVID hit. So I'll probably continue that. I'll start that back up in 2021. But the podcast is something just a lot looser because, you're sitting in front of each other with a microphone. Mm-hmm. So, and it's kind of like a BS session, with Straight Up, we've got 3 or 4 segments and they're it's a half-hour show. So, you've got to get your stuff in, talk about what these people have going. I mean, we run a pretty tight ship. And I'm lucky that we have our showrunner. We have the producer that's always working with me to make me better. It's really you're facilitating a process. You're hosting. But hosting on television for a short amount of time, you're operating under different constraints than a podcast.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, so far you've had so many great guests between season 1, season 2. We're about to see in a couple weeks. You had Baker Mayfield, Gabriel Iglesias on in season 1. Season 2, we're going to see Charlotte Flair, Ice-T, and a number of other people. So far, who has been your favorite guest on Straight Up Steve Austin? Now, obviously, you've interviewed multiple other people with Broken Skull Sessions and the Steve Austin Show on Podcast 1. Who has been your favorite guest so far, and who's still on that bucket list of people that you want to talk to and interview?
Man, I don't want to put my bucket list out there because, if we get season 3, I'll come up with a list. USA Network comes up with a list. My production team comes up with a list. So I don't want to tip my hand yet. But I've enjoyed, I have to say, I've enjoyed each and every one of my guests. But, like this season, hanging out with Luke Combs, he's the hottest singer on 2 Feet right now with 9 straight #1 hits. Ice-T, riding around with that guy, and he's dropping life knowledge from, his childhood. He basically, raised himself. And, he's the OG of rap music. So Tiffany Haddish, she is like, physical. I mean, you can actually feel the charisma and energy emanating from her. And I haven't felt that off hardly anybody I've ever met. And she's absolutely incredible. Charlotte was, we hit it off right off the bat. And this is the longest I've ever got a chance to, really hang out with Charlotte and get to know really a lot more about her. And, Brett Favre, football is my favorite sport in the world, along with pro wrestling and UFC. So when you hang out with one of the GOATs, that's an awesome day at the office. And, Bert Kreischer had me, there was a lot of the stuff with Bert didn't make the show because I was laughing my ass off and it was a little bit off color. But, each one of the people that I hang out with always has something interesting to say. And, like Steve-O, this guy, out of all the crazy stuff that he's done, when you sit there and you hang out with that guy, you realize how intelligent and how hard working he is, and to come out of the things he's come out of. And, and while I'm at it, Joel McHale, I mean, this guy can act, he can do stand-up, he can host. I mean, he's like a jack of all trades, and he's quick as lightning on his feet. So I hate to just say a favorite because I would be singling someone out.
Sure.
I would say that each person brings a different flavor to the show because it's unique to their personality, and we try to pick the activities accordingly.
Whether it be the Steve Austin show or straight up Steve Austin or in any other form, whether it be Broken Skull Sessions as well, is there a chance that we still might get that Rock interview at some point? It seems like he might be the biggest guest that you haven't gotten on so far, whether it be in entertainment, wrestling, whatnot. And you guys go way back. And of course, he's the busiest man in all of Hollywood right now. But are you still holding out hope to get that interview with The Rock at some point and you guys just kind of shooting the shit and whatnot?
Well, come on, let's face it. He's the biggest get that anybody would get,
Sure.
right?
Yep.
So, yeah, we've extended an offer for Broken Skull Session. We've extended an invite to straight up Steve Austin, on multiple occasions. And, like you just said, he's one of the busiest human beings on the planet. We have a past and a shared brotherhood and chemistry from all of our memories in the ring, working with each other. Maybe one day, hopefully, I would love that to happen.
You've been in the podcasting, interviewing game for about 7 years now, Steve, with the debut of the Steve Austin Show on Podcast One back in 2013, which is just about as long as you were in WWE. So for as long as you've been doing this, interviewing people, doing the podcasting thing, when do you really feel like you hit your stride as an interviewer? Not to blow smoke, but I think a lot of people would say that you're one of the best interviewers out there, at least in the wrestling one, but even outside of that as well, with all the interviews you've done on Straight Up Steve Austin. When do you feel you really hit your stride as a podcaster, as an interviewer?
Man, I don't know, because sometimes, I'm my own worst critic, and I don't know how you are when you listen to yourself back, but I can't stand the sound of my own voice.
Absolutely, yep.
So, and there have been some nice compliments come my way, but, I have my moments where things aren't so great as well. So I appreciate you saying that, but I don't know when I hit my stride. I'm just, it's kind of like, when you get in the wrestling business, you start off, you're green, and you're trying to be a wrestler, and so you learn it, and then you are a wrestler. And so, like in the podcast business, or even in hosting, you're trying to be a host, and then you get, hey, man, it's not about me; it's about the guest. Mm-hmm. So you learn that, and it's just, I think it's repetition and doing things over and over and over again, and getting better at them. And also, specifically with Straight Up Steve Austin and Broken Skull Sessions, I have an excellent supporting cast who helps me tremendously. With the podcast, hey, man, that was a one-man show. I turned that into my producer, and he'd throw in the commercials, and, that was just, a real loose setting. And I enjoy, each of the three settings, but they're all kind of different. And, hey, man, I'm doing my damnedest to do my best.
And I've been fortunate, Steve, to be at two Raws that you were at, both the 25th anniversary of Raw Barclays a couple of years ago, which was a great show, you kicking off the show with Vince, and then your appearance at MSG last year in September of 2019. Both times, of all the shows that I've been to over the last decade, you got the biggest pop I've ever heard. It was absolutely thunderous in both arenas. And it's crazy now watching the show, there are no fans. You were on that first pandemic show back in March, on 3/16 day with no fans there. You tried to make the most of it. It was a weird situation. What do you think is the barometer right now for these talent to be, knowing that what's working, what's not, with no fans there, as someone who would always feed off the audience throughout their career?
Boy, that's really tough, man, because I went down there to do that promo that I did, and I went to Vince's trailer 3 times to try to talk him out of that. I said, Byron Saxon was there. I said, just let me do a shoot interview with Byron, and we'll talk about what's real and what's really going on. And he goes, God dang it, Steve. He goes, people are going to be suffering. He goes, let's just go out there and, because the promo was terrible. Oh my God, the creative was terrible. Yeah. But let's don't hammer that home. I'm just making a point. It was bad, and it was so uncomfortable because I am a crowd guy. I work purely off instinct, and I work off the sound that crowd has given me. So I think with the advent of the Thunderdome that it does, because they're controlling noise and stuff like that. I think that does help the performers, the superstars, make decisions accordingly. And I think it's when I went out there, I'll tell you, it was extremely hard because I had never done anything like that, and I didn't like the material to begin with. But at the end of the day, I said, you know what, Vince has got way more problems than me in here, pissing and moaning about this creative, so I'll go ahead and do it. But I take my hat off to the men and women down there who are doing the absolute best they can. And, I was talking to Drew McIntyre on Broken Skull the other day, and, there's a guy who's really, really polished and at the peak of his career, and it's a shame. All of them, but, really, Drew, to be as good as he is right now, not be able to work in front of a crowd and to get those desired responses that you're working for and then go accordingly based on that feedback, it's a shame. But, maybe one of these days or whatever will happen, things will get back to normal and people can go back into arenas and give these superstars and anybody that performs the feedback that they need to be the best they can be.
100%. And you talked about Drew McIntyre. You had him on Broken Skull Sessions recently. We are getting the Bailey one as the next episode, right? Is that accurate?
Well, I just read that today or yesterday, so I guess I can't confirm that. And Bailey's one of my favorites. Yeah. I think she's one of the most entertaining heels in the business right now.
No, absolutely, 100%. But Drew McIntyre, Bailey, is there anyone else right now, either in WWE or AEW, if you've been catching up with it, or keeping in contact with watching the promotion and whatever? Has there been anyone from either company that's been impressing you this year? I mean, especially in light of the current circumstances.
Man, impressing me. Well, I was just talking to Justin Barrasso. I like the combination of Roman and Paul Heyman. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I haven't been watching a whole lot of anything because of the situation that's been going on. So I can't really accurately, answer your question other than I always make sure I tune in and watch Bailey and Sasha. And if, now Charlotte's back, so I'll watch Charlotte. Mm-hmm. Just because those are the three that I really, really follow.
Yeah. No, they're all doing great work. Charlotte just came back, like you said, last Sunday at the pay-per-view. I got to ask, Steve, as a longtime fan of The Good Place on NBC, they made a lot of references to you on that show. Like a lot. From Kirsten Bell, she was making a lot of references to you on that show over the last couple of years. Was there ever a plan in place for you to appear on the show at any point, or were those just references, whether you heard about them or not?
No, I always heard about them on Twitter and stuff like that, and then I see the memes or the little clips. And they're absolutely hilarious. And I've never seen the show because I don't watch hardly any TV.
Yep.
But I've seen the clips, and I just think it's funny as hell. And of course, she's an amazing actress, and the way she delivers the lines, it's hilarious. But there's never been any plans for me to be on the show.
Okay, gotcha. Well,
but I am flattered as hell that they do that.
Yeah, no, it was funny. I was waiting for you to make an appearance at some point. It didn't happen, but it was cool to hear your name brought up nonetheless, as both a fan of the show and a wrestling fan. But final few questions for you, Steve. Having been out of the ring for so long now, you've been retired since 2003. You've been doing the interviewing, the podcasting for so long. Like I said, almost as long as your WWE career was. Is it weird now for fans of today? Like, for example, I'm 25, only been watching the product for a little over 10 years now. I know you more as an interviewer. I've been listening to every episode of the show, of the podcast for 7 years now. Is it weird for fans such as myself to know you more? I mean, obviously we're familiar with your wrestling career, but is it weird for fans of today to know you more from the interview stuff and the podcasting stuff and straight up Steve Austin and stuff like that?
Man, I'm glad about that. Because I love it, because I'm creating a new fan base or maintaining and growing a fan base. Because what I did back then, like you said, it started in 89 and it stopped in 03. But, I'm still one of the most researched people, if not the most, on the WWE Network. Mm-hmm. So the WWE Network, the video games kind of keep me. The other day, a few months ago, I was somewhere and this guy says, "Hey, man, you're my son's favorite wrestler." And well, my first question to that is, well, how old is he? And he's 5. I'm like, dude, I retired in 03. He goes, it doesn't matter. He goes, it's the video games, it's the WWE Network, and it's YouTube. I said, well, I'm not going to argue with him, right? Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, it is cool for people to know me now from Straight Up or Broken Skull or, the podcasting world. Because I was kind of one of those second wave OG guys in that podcast business. And so it's great to be known for something other than wrestling, and I'm proud of my wrestling career. But like I've said many, many times, I've moved on from that, and I've left some lasting memories through so many people that supported me for so long, and they got to live vicariously through those storylines. But, it's 2020 right now, and it's fixed to be 2021, and, that's where I'm living, and that's where my head's at. But I appreciate the memories. But yeah, I'm super stoked that you know me more from my recent stuff.
Absolutely. And final question for you, Steve, kind of on that same subject. You're a man of many catchphrases. Obviously, people know the Austin 316 thing is a very popular one that you get asked about a lot. As someone who's been following your podcast for so long, I got to know, because I always end every conversation that I talk to someone with I'll catch your ass down the road. I say, I end every show with it. I end every conversation with it. You close every podcast with it. What is the backstory of the I'll catch your ass down the road? And can we get one here from you, if possible?
Yeah, man, my brother Kevin, he's 10 months younger than me.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty quick. We always used to call Kevin the accident because, who gets pregnant 10 months after I was born. So we always call Kevin the accident. But my brother, he used to ride bulls and drink beer and raise hell. This is back when I was, going to sleep early and lifting weights and training to be a football player and later on get into wrestling. But hell, I got that saying from him. He goes, God dang, he goes, I'll catch you down the road. And I was like, hey, I like that. And for several years ago. And so anyway, that's where I got that from. I got that from my brother Kevin, and I changed it to my saying, I'll catch your ass down the road. I put the ass in there, but I got and he didn't invent the saying. I guess people have been saying that for years, but you don't hear everybody say it. And so now it's kind of specific to me, but I got it from my younger brother Kevin, and that's the bottom line.
Fantastic, Steve. Well, Straight Up Steve Austin comes back on USA Network Monday, January 11th, 11 p.m. Eastern Time, right after Monday Night Raw. Steve, this has been fantastic. Thanks so much for the time. I don't drink beer, but I do drink water and soda, so swig a beer, or rather water or soda for the working man, and I'll catch your ass down the road, Steve. Thanks so much.
Hey, I'll catch your ass down the road, too. I appreciate you helping us spread the word on the show. It's a damn good season. I hope we maintain our audience. We were the number one unscripted show last year in our demographics of 18 to 49. So if we can maintain that, I'll be happier than a pig in mud.
Fantastic, Steve. I'm looking forward to it. Only a couple weeks away. Should be awesome. Can't wait. I can't kick off the year any better than that. Thanks so much, Steve.
Damn right.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.